everybody. Happy Thursday. It's good to have you along for the show. Really glad you're here. I've got a lot to say because I think P. Diddy has a lot to say. I say that because the headlines have been everywhere. You have seen them, even if you don't follow him. It's everywhere, and they're not good headlines. They're not the kind that he's been used to all his life, right? And there were some headlines that came in this week that he's probably not happy about. 5 more cases were filed against him. And then he's suing the Fed saying, get out of my cell. You're taking, docs you shouldn't be looking at. And then also, there's a whole bunch of private investigating going on. And a few influencers who say they feel like goons have showed up on behalf of Diddy to ask some questions that made them uncomfortable. 2 of them were on the show tonight to tell you what questions were being asked. But here's a question for you. Is Diddy allowed to mount a campaign at all on his own behalf, given the horrible press that his jury pool is being subjected to? Where's the line? Where's it legal? And where is he maybe in trouble? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And also, oh my head could have knocked me over with a feather yesterday when Lori Vallow showed up in a courtroom in Arizona because she ditched her last hearing and it was a no-show. And there she was. Look at her. Hair on point. Looks like she's got some dye or some bleach or something and a little poodle do up top. And she didn't just sit there, my friends. She spoke a lot. I mean, I could not believe this. All of a sudden, there's Lori Vallow going at it with the judge back and forth and pitching her case for why she's competent. Not only to stand trial, but to defend herself. Thank you, Jesus, because I would like to see that. I would like to see a courtroom where cameras are allowed, Maricopa County, thank you, and Lori Vallow defending herself against yet another murder case. I'm not going to go into the history. You already know it. But anyway, I'm going to show you this whole back and forth with the judge in just a hot minute. You really should see it. And then you can decide for yourself if you think she's competent to stand trial and defend herself. And then if you were with me yesterday, it was a really wrenching show last night. Susan Smith had her first parole hearing in 30 years and tearfully begged. You should watch the whole thing. It's about 8 minutes or so. It is really worth seeing the whole thing. We played it all last night. It's on our website, NewsNation.com. But maybe what was way more wrenching was David Smith and his presentation to the parole board. She wants out. She got life, minimum 30. 30 showed up yesterday. They said no. David was incredible the way he said, my life will never be the same. I got a life sentence when I lost my babies. It was so incredible. But there are other people affected too, like the people in jail, people behind bars, prison guards who she had sex with during her 30 years of not model behavior. One of them is on the air with me tonight because he lost his job after having sexual relations with that woman. How does he feel about the parole board saying, not in your life? Let me start here, though. Whoever said that there is no such thing as bad press probably never showed up in any. Trust me. The truth hurts sometimes. And I'll tell you what hurts even more. Lies. Just ask Sean Diddy Combs. He's been drowning in bad press for a year now. And so the question tonight becomes, what, if anything, is P. Diddy allowed to do about it? How far can he legally go from his jail cell in Brooklyn to sort out the lies from the truth and maybe move the needle in his direction when it comes to how that potential jury pool is thinking about him? Before I dive into that, I want to get you up to speed on the Diddy stories, good, bad, and otherwise, that just happened since Tuesday. And today's only Thursday. Another 5 lawsuits were filed claiming that Diddy and his hangers-on drugged and sexually assaulted unwitting and unwilling victims. They include 3 anonymous men, 3 anonymous men, and 2 anonymous women. 2 of the accusers say they were teenagers when Diddy brutalized them. One of them 18, another one 17. All 5 are represented by Tony Busby. And that name is familiar to you probably because he claims to have signed well over 100 Diddy accusers who, by the way, Tony Busby now himself is being sued, allegedly for shaking down an unnamed celebrity for hush money. I'm going to get back to the unnamed celebrities in a minute. But Diddy's good news of the week, if not maybe the whole year, was a judge's ruling in his favor. The judge barred prosecutors from using all of the notes and files and stuff that they found in his jail cell and photographed. He has another bail hearing tomorrow. It's his fourth attempt to get out. And the judge also said that he can appear at tomorrow's hearing and all the hearings in the future without the shackles. You might not think that's a big deal, right? You might just think it's uncomfortable. It is a big old deal because his lawyers say that the public seeing him in shackles over and over can taint any future jurors when it comes time to pick them for trial. Also this week, 2 of Diddy's sons warned a man that you have seen right here on this program to stop making money, they say, off of their mother. The man's name is Courtney Burgess. He is a former Diddy acquaintance. He came to the attention of the feds when he claimed to have flash drives that contained videos of freak-offs, he said. That's me and Courtney when he told us this for the first time. You know, the freak-offs are the debaucherous naked parties featuring Diddy and unnamed celebrities and people, lots of allegations about them. So Courtney also claimed to have a diary that was allegedly written by that woman. That is the late Kim Porter. She was Diddy's girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his children before she died. Courtney Burgess published that diary under a pseudonym, and now he's got a cease and desist letter from 2 of Diddy's kids, Christian and Quincy Combs. Those boys are insisting that Mr. Burgess pull the book and turn over any of Kim Porter's possessions that he might still have. Unless, of course, those things are now in the custody of the U.S. Attorney's Office, at which point he can't do that. Maybe the worst press P. Diddy ever got was this press. The leak of that hotel hallway video. It's from 2016, where he's brutally attacking another one of his ex-girlfriends, Cassie Ventura. Ahead of tomorrow's bail hearing, Diddy's 4th attempt, again, to get out of jail, he is claiming that the prosecutors took this video and doctored it to make it look worse than it was, to make him look worse than he is, he says. To which I will just say this on the prosecutor's behalf. I don't think that's possible. I'm sorry, P. Diddy. You yourself got on the Instagram and apologized and told everybody how horrible you were. So, edited tape? Come on. This much is true. Diddy has every right to help his own case and to try to counter the bad facts with the better facts, right? But just how far is he allowed to go to do that? Especially when it is not just the government and the regular media spreading dirt, but also social media, the so-called influencers who are talking nonstop about P. Diddy. So to that, now allegedly, Diddy has private investigators tracking down influencers in California, influencers who post unflattering things about Puff. Apparently asking those influencers face to face whether someone's paying them. And if so, they're asking who? Don't believe me? Watch.
So you guys are private investigators who have come to my private home asking about influencers? This is very uncomfortable, you guys.
I don't know why. I'll explain.
No, you're at my home.
Okay, so you don't want to talk to us then?
Have I broken some law?
Absolutely not.
And you have the thin blue. This is frightening. I think. Can you guys step away from my home?
Well, we're in a public street, so the answer is no. But I'm really not trying to give you a hard time.
Why are you here? What do you mean? You're showing up at my house.
We're very nice and respectful, and we will be. I just have 2 quick questions for you, and if you want to be interested in it, great. If not, I'll have a nice day. We're not...
What is this? This is odd.
So...
You have to admit this is very weird.
It always is, and people always ask us the same question. I'm happy to explain it to you. So
What?
Very simply, we were just hired to speak to a few people that do, have a lot of followers and stuff like that on different platforms.
What, is this about the Diddy stuff I report on?
Somewhat, yes. Not necessarily Diddy stuff, but, people are involved in just stuff like that. So basically, a very simple question is are you paid to influence that's stories like that in any direction?
No, not at all.
That's all we wanted to know. Because if the company is, they're looking into people who are.
Are you guys going to pay me for this visit? Like, this is frightening.
So,
like, I'm super. You have to admit, if I came to your house and like, I thought this was a joke. I thought I have a friend coming over business right now. Like, this is extremely weird for me. I have 100,000 followers. I'm not making any money.
That's one of the reasons why we're here, and that's the question that we're asking. If someone contacts you, say, in the last 6 months and is paying you to influence in a certain way.
No.
Either one way.
Is it illegal if somebody would have?
So the answer is no.
Okay, I wish somebody would have. I'd love to be making real money off this.
Let me talk for 2 seconds. I'll explain to me. Try to make you feel better.
I mean, this is terrifying.
Very simply, if somebody was paying you,
right,
the company we work for are just asking that question.
Right.
If somebody was, they would just be willing to possibly offer you money to know who and see what's going on.
Well, they're paying me $1 million. Will you guys give me $2 million? I'm joking. But seriously, this is very odd, you guys. You guys came to my house. It makes me feel slightly good that maybe I'm getting some notoriety for this, but this is crazy.
So again, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So apparently there's tons of things influencing going around.
Okay.
A huge percentage of it is all bots, not real.
Interesting. No, I'm real. Anything I report on about Diddy is coming from what other influencers, what news articles, and I'm a comedian. I put my spin on it, but nobody is paying me to do that.
And I've seen it, and I like it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's very simple that if it was the fact that somebody was paying you.
Right.
People who are getting some negative, talk,
would be interested
in finding that out and possibly going action either against that person or.
Am I at any danger for doing this?
Zero. The only time you would ever have any liability is if you said, "I know for a fact this person raped it."
No, all of I'm satire. I'm a comedian.
And you always say allegedly.
I always say, wow. I'm shocked that this is. I've never had fans come visit me. I'm just filming you guys because this freaked me out.
I'll tell you why. Because everything you do is real. And so many things are just bots.
Right.
So we got a list of about 15 people.
Interesting.
That only post themselves.
Wow.
And we're just trying to find out if people are paying for the story to be pushed.
Got it.
Listen, everybody talks about it.
Okay.
I'm not an influencer whatsoever.
Right.
Guess what? Me and my friends talk about it once in a while.
Right.
Oh, we got
right, and I understand. I'm not looking to spread misinformation, and TikTok docks you very quickly. If I've had videos of like, oh, that sounds threatening or this and that, but well, can I get your guys' information just so if I have something that comes up, I can contact you guys?
So to be honest,
no,
we can't give out our company because they don't want to be linked to anybody.
Got it.
My name is Robert James.
Okay, Robert.
Peter Deegan.
Okay, cool. This is crazy.
So that influencer's name is Samson Crouppen, and he says he filed a harassment complaint with the LAPD the day after this happened. And he's not alone. 3 other influencers say they were paid a visit by these guys, including a YouTuber named Amala Epinobi. She says that they grilled her on those very same questions and said that if she was in fact on someone's payroll, they would pay her more to work for them instead. YouTuber Amala Epinobi and TikTok creator Samson Crouppen are both here with me live. Hello to both of you, and thank you so much for being on the show. Samson, let me start with you. This is just such a bizarre, it's such a bizarre encounter. You seemed genuinely afraid. Were you afraid because Diddy has a reputation? And there are stories about Diddy, and people fear Diddy's power and influence. Or were you afraid just because you didn't know who the guys were?
I would have to say a little bit of both. And I think you said it best up top that they felt like goons. They felt like they were out of like the Goonies or some 80s film. They had the New York accents and everything. And it was terrifying. And that's why I started filming right away, is because something in my gut told me this is not normal and you need to film this interaction in case it got dangerous.
Probably wise. Certainly good to have it and have the evidence of it. Amala, it was a little different for you because they reached you over the phone, but nonetheless, you say you had all these same kinds of questions. What did they want, and what ultimately did you talk to them about?
Yeah, so I got a text on Monday morning from somebody that I used to live with who happens to be my best friend. And she said, there are 2 men at my door right now. They believed it was my residence, but it was just a place I used to live. So she thought that they were there asking about advertisements and sponsorships for my show because they were very vague in their questioning. So she unfortunately opened the door to these two guys. We ended up being on the phone over speaker talking to one another. And I had the very same reaction that Sam had. I thought something is not right here. They were being very vague in what they were asking me. They were sprinkling in mentions of P. Diddy throughout their questioning. And I actually texted my friend, get away from these guys. Unfortunately, she didn't see the message. The conversation continued. And eventually they let out that they are private investigators trying to figure out if I'm being paid to talk about Diddy and his connection to other celebrities.
And what did you tell them? Anything?
I told them, absolutely not. I don't get paid to say anything that I say on my channel. And they gave the same offer that they gave Sam and said, had you been paid, we'd love to pay you more to disclose exactly who that was. And they even went on to say that they would pay more than whatever it was I was being paid from the initial entity to share the opposite story. Now, I don't know if they were talking about this in reference to P. Diddy or if another celebrity, maybe in his network, hired them. It was very, very strange.
And Sam, you were nodding as though this was the same offer that you got, meaning if you're being paid, we'd like to pay you to tell us who's paying you, and we'll pay you more to influence, on our behalf instead of whoever might be paying you. Is that right? Is that why you were nodding?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that was what was the whole exchange is so shocking. And people have said, oh, Sam, it looks staged. And that's why I made sure to get the police report, because it is so unbelievable. I mean, and like I said, I was genuinely terrified. You hear, I say, can you please back up? And he's like, well, it's a public street, so the answer is no, which is a very hostile thing to say. And, I went all Karen on him. I'm like, you better back up off me, And it was just, I don't know, I don't know why this happened to me. And I think to Amala, that's the biggest question to us both. And what's terrifying is why us? Why did Diddy single me out? Is it my No Diddy song that is, he hates? Did I've been doing videos about him and DJ Khaled's kind of relationship. So I just don't know if I maybe rattled his cage, no pun intended.
Well, it's a good question.
It's a mystery.
It's a good question. Amala, do you know what videos you might have posted that drew, their attention to you?
There were several, and we've been really thinking about this and theorizing why these two individuals showed up at my former residence. And I thought maybe it was us linking P. Diddy and his relationships to another celebrity. And maybe another celebrity on the PR front is trying to get ahead of this and see if somebody is funding these narratives. We also thought, since P. Diddy is really focused on how he's going to come off to jurors in his trial, and he's really asking himself the question, can I get a fair trial? Maybe they're going out and investigating influencers, trying to see if somebody's trying to corrupt the narrative or give him extra negative press. And then maybe they can run the story that it's not possible for him to get a fair trial. I mean, fortunately, none of us are being paid. We're covering this because it's actually insane. And what he's done, allegedly, is insane.
Well, and the truth of the matter is that there are private investigators and investigators in all kinds of cases. It's actually not strange, but everything connected to Diddy does have a different sheen, and it is a little worrisome for some people, especially people who lived in Diddy's world, maybe suing him and said that they always felt as though he pressured them or worse. So I can understand why it's nerve-wracking. Samson, they said their names were Robert James and Peter Deegan. Do you believe those are the names? Have you been able to, run down those names anywhere?
Not really. I haven't really dug too much into it. They sound like fake names to me. I don't know why they would give me their real names if they wouldn't give me any of their contact or company information. And, it made me think, overall, their message for coming to my home is, we know where you live, Sam. And I have to say that's the most terrifying part about it. And all these comedians talk about freedom of speech being taken from them. And as far as I know, I'm the only comedian who's had somebody pull up on them for something in a video that I've said online. And what's terrifying is that Diddy is reaching a social media influencer. So at what point do I need to get my own protection? I had a show at the Hollywood Improv on December 4th, and they asked me, are you okay to do the show? And of course I said, yeah, I'm not going to be intimidated, but it is a little scary. I won't lie.
Well, I sure appreciate both of you, and your bravery for coming on to talk about this. I hope everything is going to be okay. Make sure you keep us apprised and keep us posted on everything that happens. Amala Epinobi and Samson Krupin, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, coming up next, can you guess whose pink jailhouse slippers and matching pink socks these are? Chained together, bouncing a little nervously. If you guess they belong to Maricopa County's most notorious inmate, you're right. It's been a year since Lori Vallow was moved down to Phoenix from Idaho for her murder trial, I should say second murder trial. But first she has to convince a judge that she is in fact competent to even be in that courtroom. How do you suppose that went? Just you wait. You're going to hear her make a case for herself next. Welcome back, everybody. If you're staring at 20 or 30 or maybe even 40 years of maximum security prison time, or even minimum security prison time for that matter, you take your fun where you can find it. I'm not saying it's exactly fun to fight over mental competency, but it certainly is a distraction. And it's keeping Lori Vallow pretty darn busy these days in Maricopa County. That is in Arizona, and as I'm sure you remember, Vallow was charged with conspiring to murder her fourth husband there, Charles Vallow, and trying to murder a man who her niece was divorcing. You may also remember that she's already serving life in Idaho for murdering two of her own kids and conspiring to murder her current husband's previous wife. Follow the bouncing ball. The Arizona trial was set to begin in February, but now it will not, because her last legal team made a special request, a mental health evaluation for this lady. They want to know if Lori is even competent to stand trial a second time. But now she's got a new legal team, and the current legal team seems to think she's just fine, and they pulled that request. But the judge said not so fast, like hold tight. The judge said he wanted a hearing to see for himself the state of Lori Vallow's mind. And boy, did he get an earful. Lori spoke at this hearing. That does not happen much, right? And she spoke a lot. She answered a whole bunch of this judge's questions, and it did not take long before this judge made up his mind. Request denied. Everything still stands. Competency exam is still on. Have I mentioned that if and when this trial happens, Lori Vallow wants to represent herself? All the more reason for competence, and a lot of it. I want you to hear the judge at the hearing yesterday, trying to get a feel for where Lori Vallow is coming from, literally.
Well, ma'am, I am going to ask you a series of questions, and that could inform what happens next. Have you previously in any other criminal proceeding been referred for a competency determination?
Yes, previously.
All right. And were you ever previously determined to be incompetent at any point?
Not to my understanding. So my understanding was that the judge did the same thing that you did, in abundance of caution. Let's go ahead and put her in and see. And I came out competent.
Well, when you say you came out competent, was there a period of time where you were ruled as incompetent?
I would say technically they did do that. That's how they put you into the program in that state. Correct.
How long were you in that program?
I was in that program for about 10 months.
Okay. And what types of things did they give you classes? What types of things did they speak to you about where you went through some process where you were later deemed competent?
I did go through a process of several things, several classes, competency class, and meeting with doctors and evaluators, many evaluators.
That part there, where Lori was talking about her other case, that's her murder trial in Idaho, the one for killing her children, JJ and Tylee, and also for conspiring to kill her husband's first wife, Tammy Daybell. For a period of time during that case, she was found unfit to stand trial. But like you heard, she got fit in the head. We all know how that trial turned out. Not good. Here is Lori's current attorney sitting beside her, trying her damnedest to convince the court that Lori is in fact up to the task of not only being in that courtroom, but defending herself.
She has an absolute right to represent herself. She has the sufficient mental capacity to understand the nature of the dispute, formulate a defense. We've now had a couple of conversations. We believe that she's able to do that, so we are avowing to the court that she's able to do that. So far, there's been no history. The state and Your Honors had this case for almost a year. You've had chances to see Ms. Vallow in court. To my understanding, there's been no history of irrational behavior. We now have a medical opinion from Dr. McGady who says that she's competent. You asked us to come back and give you some evidence of competency. I think we have more than provided that at this point. And at this point, we're just delaying any speedy trial rights, any fundamental right to represent herself.
Be that as it may, the trial is on hold, and everybody is due back in court on December 5th. So mark your calendar, because that is 2 weeks from today. And yes, we'll be on it too. Okay, it is actually pretty hard to keep your nose clean perfectly for 30 years. Just ask Susan Smith. She just had her first chance of parole yesterday, and sure enough, her bad behavior behind bars reared its ugly head, like drug use and sex with guards. One of those guards joins me next with his thoughts on the parole board shooting down her bid to be free. If you were with us last night, you know that Susan Smith had her very first chance at parole. Really wasn't much of a chance, honestly. She went through the motions. She wiped her eyes. She admitted mistakes and said, I'm a Christian now. But she still couldn't seem to manage a meaningful apology to the father of the 2 little boys that she drowned in her car 30 years ago on purpose. No matter, it took less than a minute, 57 seconds actually I counted, for the board to actually come back with a unanimous no, you're not getting out. And while they don't have to state their reasons, we do know that South Carolina's parole rejection rate is somewhere around 96%. And for violent crimes, it's even higher. So the odds are bad. Smith's prison record is also pretty spotty. Along with a long list of drug offenses and rules violations, she even had a couple of sexual hookups with guards. I'm very pleased tonight to welcome back to the show Alfred Rowe. He was a guard at the Leith Correctional Institution in Greenwood, South Carolina. That's where Susan is housed. He was there until his hookup with Susan cost him his job and got him 5 years probation. Alfred, it's good to have you back on the show. Thanks for being here. I thought of you yesterday, and I wondered what your reaction would be when you saw Susan Smith tearfully trying to tell everybody she's changed and that she should be freed.
Well, honestly, I never saw a tear. I saw, in my opinion, an attempt at making tears. I really do not believe that Susan is capable of producing a tear. I think her whole story was like in the beginning in 1994. She's trying to stay in the limelight, and it's all about Susan and what Susan needs. And that's to have attention drawn to her.
It's interesting you use those words because the prosecutor used the exact words that Susan is all about Susan. And when at the end of the parole hearing, the board member asked her, do you have anything that you'd like to add? I thought 100% she's going to say, David, I am so sorry. I am so sorry for the 30 years of hell I put you through, for taking those boys away from you. She said, I'm a Christian. She didn't say anything to David, nothing. And I wondered if that surprised you.
No, her saying anything to David or any of David's family, that didn't surprise me in the least. I don't think she's probably will ever say anything to David or any of his family anytime soon unless she saw somehow his comments on the TV last night. And then I'm sure she'll find a way to work it into the November of 26 hearing.
So we're showing on the other side of the screen, Alfred, David Smith's appeal to the parole board and all the family and supporters behind him who supported him. I was transfixed by him. His raw emotion, there were tears falling down his face. I saw it. His chin quivered, his lip. I mean, it was all the natural tells in the face of a man who is broken. And I wondered what you thought Susan would be thinking watching this.
Honestly, I could picture Susan maybe even slightly laughing or smiling if no one else was watching her, watching David give his testimony.
It's hard for me to even imagine that. So my first thought is Alfred angry at Susan because he lost his job after having that illicit affair with her? Or do you really believe that because you've been intimate with Susan, you know her way more than the rest of us do?
I think I know her better than the rest of you do. I'm upset with Susan, but it's not because I lost my job. I'm upset with Susan because she trapped me into the situation that got me fired. It takes two to have a sexual relationship. So it's not all on Susan. I've let you know that on previous shows, and I'll say it again. But like I said then, everybody does deserve a second chance. And in maybe 10 or 15 more parole hearings, she may be ready. But not anytime soon.
Wow.
And I think the parole board got it right. Michael and Alex, they don't deserve to have their mother walking around semi-free on the streets.
I mean, they got a death penalty. That is often brought up. They got a death penalty, and they were innocent people, little boys. Alfred, I'm very thankful for your perspective. I'm appreciative that you came on last time and this time, and I look forward to talking to you again. I think we're going to meet every 2 years, my friend.
Well, I'll be in the same place. Not going anywhere.
Alfred Rowe joining us live again. Thank you for this. I appreciate it. And still to come on this program tonight, Monday is a big day for the Menendez brothers. A hearing in an LA courtroom about their bid for freedom is on, and it is the hottest ticket in town. So much so that Los Angeles County is actually having to hold a lottery to see who gets the coveted 16 public seats in the courtroom. 16. The question I have, will a secret girlfriend of one of the brothers be vying for one of those seats? Oh, you heard me. I'm going to spill that tea next. We have talked about the Menendez brothers' attempts to get out of prison, their strategies, their prospects, the impact of a new DA. But on Monday, just 4 days from now, it could actually happen. At a hearing in Los Angeles, Lyle and Eric's attorney, Mark Garagos, is going to ask a judge to change the brothers' convictions from first-degree murder to voluntary manslaughter. And the maximum sentence for voluntary manslaughter is 11 years. So do the math. They have already served more than 30. They would be freed on the spot or close to it. I asked Garagos what his gut was telling him when he joined us here on Tuesday, and he said, something could happen, end quote. If it does, or even if it doesn't, a lot of people want to be there. So many, in fact, that officials plan to give out the courtroom's 16 public seats by lottery. Don't get me started on why only 16 seats for the public. It's our process. What I really want to know, though, is one of those 16 seats going to go to Lyle Menendez's alleged secret girlfriend? Daily Mail says that she is a 21-year-old college student from Britain named Millie Buxey. Reportedly, the couple met in a Facebook group run by, wait for it, Lyle Menendez's wife. Daily Mail has exclusive photos from September when Buxey apparently made a very long trip across the pond to meet her new beau face to face. Their relationship started in January, supposedly, with Lyle on a contraband cell phone. Lyle was busted for it. The phone, not the fling. That happened back in March. So this is where I bring in Larry Levine, because he's a former federal prisoner who spent 11 institutions, and he now runs Wall Street Prison Consultants. And of course, he's a good friend of the show. Larry, the background on this young woman, Millie Buxey, is that she's 35 years younger than Lyle. She wasn't even alive when the murders were committed. And Lyle has a wife of 21 years, second wife behind bars. Is this common? Is it normal to spin through wives, or is this a famous prisoner thing?
Well, he may have several different women. I'll tell you a short little story. I used to run a prison phone company where we would get inmates cheap phone calls, and wives and girlfriends would call in to set up the phone service. And we would ask everyone, well, what's your relationship to the inmate? And we'd keep track of this. And several inmates would have women set up service. I'm his wife. I'm his fiance. So they would have several women on a string that didn't know about each other. So yeah, this is pretty common. I never said anything to anyone. Not my business, but this happens all the time.
So the thing I couldn't understand is that Lyle and Eric both have pretty good records for guys who've been in prison for more than 30 years, but this was a contraband cell phone, and it is within the last year. And it's an important year for these guys. This is the year they think they may get parole or better, a release. Are you surprised that a contraband cell phone was part of Lyle's, plan to, if it's true, to be with this secret girlfriend?
Well, they're continually shaking down the institutions. I mean, we call it, or the California inmates call it, the CDC Express, California Department of Corrections Express. It's the correctional officers that are bringing these phones in. So there may be dozens, maybe hundreds of cell phones in this institution. I get inmates call me from prison that aren't supposed to have cell phones, and they remove the SIM card every night. So he probably had a smartphone in there, went online, went on the Facebook group herself, and she obviously made it public because she wants to split him and his wife up. So I'm not surprised at all.
Well, if you follow the Menendez, trials and tribulations after the trial, Lyle married a woman who was actually in the courtroom named Anna. They were together, I think, 5 or 6 years. Apparently, he cheated on her. They split. And then now, I think this is Rebecca. I think that's her name. They've been together 21 years. I have this question for you. I don't know if you know the answer. It's really about what happens on the outside. When there's an inmate who marries someone on the inside and is locked away for a long time, do those marriages last when the inmate gets out?
There's a number, and the number's like 5 years. If the woman sticks with you after 5 years, you're generally safe. But the women, they're screwing around on the outside themselves. Let's say it's not the brother. Somebody goes in on a 20-year sentence. Do you really think the wife is going to sit around for 20 years and not have sexual relations with someone? It's not reasonably conceivable. But I saw inmates where their wives would come and visit them every weekend for years on end. And I was pretty impressed. I mean, a funny thing happened when I was at the federal prison in El Paso, Texas. Guy's in the visiting room. His girlfriend is in there visiting with him. Well, little did he know his wife showed up at the same time. She comes into the visiting room. The correctional officer directs her to the table. and she's looking at this other woman. I wasn't there, but I talked to someone who saw this. And the women are like, who were you? And each one said they were his wife. The women get into a scrap right there in the visiting room. They're beating the crap out of each other. The guards have to separate them. They ban both the women from ever coming back to the prison, and they take the guy's visiting privileges away like for 3 years. So these women get emotionally attached and they get nuts. Now, Ashleigh, imagine one of them does get out on parole. I mean, it could happen. I don't think it will. Let's say it does. All of a sudden, they've got all these women all over the world throwing themselves at these guys. This is nothing. I mean, it'll be like a party for them. Seriously. I mean, one woman on Facebook, 2 women on Facebook. I get women hit on me on Facebook, and I've been out, I don't know, a long time. I get people on the street that stop me, that know me, that hit on me all the time. And I'm not a celebrity like these. Well, are they a celebrity? But they'll have several women hitting on them probably forever. And how do you think the wives are going to feel about that?
Larry, I can completely understand why people hit on you. It's why we keep calling you back. Larry Levine, thanks for being on. See you soon.
Take care, hon.
Still to come, forget the crackers. Paulie wants a bulletproof vest. There is a killer on the loose, and he is targeting the famous wild parrots of Pasadena, California. We have a photo of a suspect, and you're going to see it next. To begin with, and the last thing that the wild parrots of Southern California need is a nutcase shooting at them with a pellet gun. But that is what's happening around Pasadena. In the last few weeks, more than a dozen parrots have been shot dead or badly hurt, and the police are desperate to find the shooter. And tonight, they're getting some help. Local animal shelter is releasing this image from surveillance video showing someone in a white pickup truck aiming what looks like a weapon. And they're asking folks in the Pasadena area, if you know something or you see something, say something, because in this case, the parrots, they cannot speak for themselves. I just wanted to let you know it's Brian Koberger's birthday today, and yesterday the gift was death penalties on the table. Cuomo's next.
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to News Nation. Gates is out. Former Florida AG Pam Bondi is in as AG nominee. Now, I know Bondi a bit, and I'll give you some insight in a moment. But first, is it too soon to say, meet the new boss, same as the old boss? I've had that song from The Who ringing in my ears, along with all the noise surrounding Trump's picks for days. The song, of course, is We Won't Get Fooled Again, and it is about how political change often falls flat. And we do seem to have life imitating art at least a little bit here out of the gate, don't we? Gate, zzz, I guess. It is true that the administration doesn't start until January 20. And I believe that what matters most